Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. At the Salem Inn, Jada started to lead a protesting Vivian out of Philip's room. Rafe called Jada, and she told him about her concerns about Vivian. In addition to congratulating her, Rafe advised her to exercise caution around Vivian. Rafe heard a fight and a gunshot across the phone line at the police station at that very moment. Later, Rafe came with his gun drawn into the room. He kicked in the door and yelled for Jada. He exclaimed, "Oh my God," as he stepped inside. Jada was phoning for an ambulance while Vivian lay on the floor, unresponsive. Rafe inquired as to whether Vivian had been shot after establishing that Jada was unharmed. Vivian had attempted to take her revolver out of the holster, Jada clarified. After a scuffle, Vivian fell backward and struck her head on a desk. Jada watched anxiously as Rafe attempted to wake Vivian. A bandaged Vivian later ordered Rafe to arrest Jada for assault in the hospital. With a sly smile, Rafe indicated Jada and said Vivian may bring up her grievance with the acting commissioner. Vivian insisted on talking to the mayor. Rafe assured Vivian that her next destination would be a jail cell, while Jada reminded the sick woman that she was the one who started the assault. Rafe acknowledged that he was relieved that Vivian could no longer harm anyone he cared about when she insisted on seeing a lawyer. Admire Days, B&B, General Hospital, or other soap operas. Participate in the discussion on our SC boards. To interact with fans and start a conversation right away, click here. Jada and Rafe talked about Vivian's anxiety after leaving the hospital room. Rafe acknowledged his level of fear at hearing the gunfire. The event had taught Jada that nothing should ever be taken for granted. To Jada's surprise, Rafe agreed and produced a ring box. He declared that time waits for no one before bending down. As Rafe thought about how he had prepared a lavish romantic supper, yet that moment in the hospital seemed appropriate, Jada put her palm to her mouth. He revealed, as he opened the box, that his aunt had given him the ring and instructed him to give it to a lifelong love interest. Rafe asked Jada to marry him after smiling and confirming that she was that person. She said, yes, when he gently nudged her for a response. As the assembled audience cheered, the newly engaged pair gave each other enthusiastic hugs and kisses. Over the phone, Chad described his encounter with Abigail Fate Cat to a sympathetic EJ at the DiMera mansion. Chad bemoaned the situation and said he was glad he hadn't told the children that their mother might still be alive. EJ assured Chad that he would exert every effort to ensure Kat and her brother were held accountable. When Chad thought Abigail had come back to him, he talked candidly about how it had felt like a dream come true. EJ said how sorry he was for his brother's suffering. When EJ heard a disturbance at the door, the call was cut off. He just didn't notice Ivan sneak upstairs and break in. EJ did open the door for Gabby, another unannounced guest. Gabby insisted on speaking with Stefan. EJ wondered why Gabby wanted to visit his brother as he looked at the divorce papers she was holding. EJ reminded Gabby that she had put him in the midst of it by climbing into my bed, and Gabby fired back that it was none of his concern. Testy, Gabby inquired again if Stefan was home. She accepted EJ's invitation to go upstairs and see. Ivan went upstairs to Stefan's room. He promised to look after his madam in every way. After getting a suitcase, he started packing Stefan's belongings inside. He openly discussed Vivian's scheme to give the impression that Stefan had left town on his own initiative. Ivan stated there was one more thing and took out a note once he had done packing the suitcase. Gabby considered getting the divorce papers on the other side of the door. She hesitated for a second before entering the room, which was deserted. The letter, addressed to EJ, caught her attention. Gabby gave EJ the note and insisted that he read it when he arrived at the door. In the letter, Stefan described EJ and Gabby's affair as the ultimate betrayal and said he couldn't go past what they had done. Stefan believed he had to leave Salem since neither EJ nor Gabby would. Stefan had determined that Gabby and EJ were worthy of one another. He pronounced them both dead and vowed he would never forgive them. Goodbye forever was Stefan's final words in the letter. An emotional Gabby rushed out of the room as soon as EJ had done reading the contents. EJ trailed behind her. Ivan reappeared from the shadows, happy that Vivian's most recent fabrication had worked. When Ivan later visited Vivian's room at the inn, he was shocked to see that the door was covered in police tape. A call came in from his madam. Ivan later hurried into Vivian's medical room. Ivan boasted about how wonderfully Vivian's plan for Stefan and Gabby had worked out after making sure she was all right. Vivian thought Gabby's dejection was consolation. EJ caught up to Gabby back downstairs at the mansion and extended a consoling hand. She flinched and screamed at him to keep away from her. Then Gabby attacked EJ, accusing him of causing her marriage to fail and confirming that he left a trail of misery wherever he went. Gabby insisted that EJ leave her presence when he implied that she needed to accept responsibility for her conduct. EJ reminded Gabby that the mansion was his home before complying. Later, a weeping Gabby promised to grant Stefan a divorce if he so desired. She signed the divorce papers furiously. Kat informed Mark of Abigail's body's disappearance while they waited in their separate holding cells. She acknowledged that she had hoped Chad had visited her for a different reason, and Mark was right to assume that Kat still harbored deep affections for Chad. She sincerely felt bad about the suffering they had given Chad. Kat disputed the notion that their mother was still alive, but Mark reminded his sister that they had gone to such lengths to save her. Telling their siblings that they had lost their mother again was something Kat feared. Kat acknowledged how painful it was to watch Aaron and Felicity treat her like an outsider. She thought they ought to be really honest with the children. Mark pondered whether the arrests had already reached them. Aaron immediately hurried to Mark's cell and begged his brother to claim that everything had been an error. Mark's persistent silence and refusal to respond to Aaron's inquiries infuriated him. Aaron was indignant at how they would explain the events to their sister and chastised Mark for not telling him or Felicity. Mark maintained that he didn't want to include his siblings and that it was complicated. In homicide? Aaron questioned with disbelief. After a while, Mark admitted that he was incarcerated for attempting to save their mother. Bewildered, Aaron reminded Mark that their mother had passed away. Mark glanced at Kat, and Aaron saw it. "Why is Mark staring at her?" he said, turning around. Aaron's confusion and worry increased as he realized that Kat was the woman from the park. He turned back to Mark and insisted on knowing the reason behind Mark's assertion that their mother was still alive. According to Mark, the siblings had been told that their mother had survived the crash, but they had been taught to believe that both of their parents had perished. Mark then grudgingly acknowledged that their mother had been manipulated by drug kingpin Clyde Weston, who had been using blackmail to force Mark to comply with his demands. After taking in the news in shock, Aaron told Clyde straight out that he had to pay. Aaron retorted that he no longer needed to listen to Mark after Mark cautioned him against becoming entangled. More than anybody else in his life, he had trusted Mark, and that confidence was betrayed. Mark reminded Aaron that he had been attempting to keep his family safe and cautioned him about the risks involved. In response, Kat advised Aaron to pay attention to Mark. Since it was a family issue and unrelated to her, Aaron angrily urged her to avoid the conversation. It did include her, Kat indicated. Then she came clean and said she was Aaron's sister. Aaron, shaken, came to her cell and denied the accusation. Aaron questioned whether she was collaborating with Clyde. "It's me, Kat," she continued, refuting the charge. Aaron, who was wide-eyed, sought to understand what he was hearing because his sister Kat had been committed to a rehabilitation center after being engaged in the vehicle accident with their parents. Kat acknowledged that she had suffered severe injuries and that the several surgeries she had changed the way she looked. Then, grinning, she made fun of Aaron by recalling all the times she had surreptitiously allowed him to play video games that their parents had forbade. After smiling at the recollections, Aaron finally came to terms with the fact that his sister was in front of him. He was ecstatic. The fact that his mother was still alive thrilled Aaron as well. Asking when he could see her, he turned to Mark. Reluctantly, Mark and Kat told Aaron that they were unsure if their mother was still alive and that Clyde had taken her.